we'll see.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about
we
what
talked
some
about
of the
making
options
selections.
are.
Today
So
when we
some
made
of the
a
options
selection,
for this project
we
include
saved the
any
selection
of
as a
those
layer mask.
awesome
What I
examples
want to do is
that
if,
I
like,
showed you.
Lisa
And you'll
has
see
I don't know if you
that
ever
in
have
these
like
75
big hair
different
days,
types,
but should you
all
have a
of
big
these
hair day
75
and you
types
get a really
use
good
a
selection
very
of that,
similar
I want you to
structure.
save that so you
And
never
that
have to
structure
approach
has
that
to do
again.
with
First,
when I was
isolating
younger,
the
I had
background.
home perms. We're isolating the figure from
I
the
know how it
background.
is to select
which we
crazy
have
hair.
reviewed.
If you choose
So let's
to
go
save
back
the
here
figure as an alpha channel, you can do that.
Our,
I will review that today.
our
We've
layer.
also
And I'm going to
um,
select save
Walter.
the figure just as a layer mask right now. And then these all, every one of them, even
get his
the ones
little-
that are a little creepier
now to make
than
this
others,
are
very,
building
to very
up
quickly
the
amend
shape of the
this,
face.
I'm going to
using
hit Q.
text
And what Q
different
takes me into
sizes,
is a
different
temporary
weights of text.
to
editing
build up
mode
the
called
shadow
quick
parts,
mask. It's just
the
Q
highlight
in, Q
parts,
out.
and
in there,
the
you use the brush,
midtones.
black and
So
white.
I think you should find an
you can
example
use
in
it
here, maybe
to
even something simple like
pull
this.
out
And we're going to go through something simple like this
a couple
today.
of things like
And you can build it up, and then you can add color.
Make sure I get rid of
So
myself.
these ones where they're a little, probably going to take a little more time to do, but we're going to go through how to warp your text, how to bend your
Alright, so
text,
I'm
how
just
to do
gonna
all sorts
do
of
this
different
pretty
transformations
briefly.
to your text.
Don't need this here.
So in here,
And
the first thing I did
just get a little
was
bit
pull
around
out.
there.
I'm going to just delete.
It looks pretty
everything
good. You
for
can
now.
hit Q to exit, and then you'll notice that I still
First thing I
had
did
a little
is
bit
I've
of
got
my
a photograph.
hat.
Cool.
So it's Q in.
Now in this
Q
case,
out
it
for the
wasn't
quick
very
mask.
hard to
But the
pull
quick
out the
mask
figure
is
from the
not
background.
A saved
So,
selection. You
I'm
could
going
also add
to
a layer mask to that. and as long as that layer mask
add-
stays
let's
with
see.
that
Let's
layer,
go to quick
you
mask.
will have, in a way, that
quick selection.
It's saved.
But I'm going to show you how to save the marching ants.
I know I want my
Go
my
up to the
fabulous
select
hat in it.
menu and go to save
fabulous
selection.
and
Yes.
my fabulous dog.
Oh, I did. Hit cancel.
Oh, I did. Thank you. Get that little nugget right
I'm
there.
going to go through here. And it doesn't have to be totally precise.
It's
I just
hard
want to
'cause I
pull
just
it
look in his eyes.
away from the trees in the background. So I'm going to hit a layer mask right there. And if there's anything I
Perfect.
need to do, I can control or command
Excellent.
plus in. So if we go to
In with the
select,
brush.
save selection,
What this is
I already
going
have
to
a
do
pre-made
is it's going
Walther
to
brush.
save
Let's
something
get
called an alpha channel.
just a normal brush
an
for
alpha
now.
channel is nothing more than those marching ants saved to the channels panel. I'm going to call this
I
WAS.
can go around and just
I'm going to save it to this document as a
clean
new
up
channel.
big spots.
The
I don't
name
have
is
to
WAS,
be too
new
concerned
channel,
about it because
and
there's
hit
not a
OK.
lot of hair.
Now let's
And
take
because
a
I'm
minute
going to
to
use
look
the type
at our
to define
channel panel,
most of the details.
which is hard to say.
Just to make
channel
sure.
panel. If you look at your channel panel,
Brush.
you'll see that you've got it. You have 3 grayscale
Got that. Looks pretty
channels,
good.
which is RGB.
Got a little bit along the bottom
red, green,
here.
and blue, and then you have a composite.
Again, I'm going to
RGB.
recrop this.
So these they make
So I'm
up
not
the
worried
information.
at
I'm going to
all.
hit Command D to So I've got my
deselect
layer
Walter.
mask. And now you have,
Now,
in this case,
A
I wanted
black
to make
and
it black
white
and white, so I added
channel
a gradient
that
map
is
of
the
it.
saved selection.
One of the things that's so
And
cool about this is that I
made
can live edit
a
a stamp
so,
visible layer
See these couple of spots
of
I
these
missed?
2 layers, which is Shift, Control, Alt, E.
I'm not actually because I
that
have
up there?
gray and white instead of black and white, so I need to hit D.
So just kind of ignore everything else
And
that I have
then-
going on up here for now.
Hit X to
And-
put black in the foreground. There you go.
Pull that out of there.
And then I can just do a little
this is
bit
my
of
stamp.
retouching. Not retouching, but a little bit of
Visible.
correcting here.
Okay.
So you
One
can
of the
edit
things I
this
did, because I
without
wanted
having to
to
save it again.
Try a couple of different
And
approaches
it
with
makes
this.
it a
is
perfect
I
channel.
worked with some of the
So you go
tutorial
home.
assets
Say you spend 15,
from the
20
Pavarotti
minutes
video
making
this.
What I thought we could
And
do
you go
today
home
is
and you're
go
like,
through how
okay,
to select the
I'm
different
Alright.
shadows.
Now I don't have any idea
highlights
where I
and
saved
midtones.
that.
So, and how
Give
to
me
make
just a
those
second
into
here.
different layers and add layer masks. So we're going to do a really abbreviated
Some of these are going
version
so
of the text
smooth.
portrait.
And some of
Sound
them
good?
are going so.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds
Huh?
great. Okay.
Awesome.
So
No, I
let's
named
go
it.
to
Select.
So let's go back into
Color
Photoshop and open recent.
And in the select menu, we're going to grab
For
the
those
highlights.
of you that are watching this, I am
And
doing
do
this on a
okay.
PC, and it's not my fault. Oh,
Layer, new layer.
there you
the,
go. Right there.
Copy. And I'm going to name that. So I
Highlights.
spent a ton of time
And
making that
add
selection.
a layer mask.
What happens to a
Go back to
selection
stamp
when you
visible,
go home?
layer,
You shut that file
Oops,
down.
sorry.
Select
it's gone.
color range.
Right? So if you spent a ton of time doing that,
Midtones.
or if you have an aspect of your
Okay.
composition you are going to need to select over and over and over and
Layer,
over
new
again,
layer via copy.
making an alpha channel saves it
and you'll notice
perfectly in there.
Now I go up to my select menu and I go to load selection.
This photo
may be a little too
and I
complicated.
pick the channel.
You'll
Is
notice
WAS.
I think the simpler the
And hit
photographs,
OK.
the more I think the more
And you select
successful
it again.
they'll be. But we'll give it a
Perfectly.
go, and at least then we'll have the technique down.
You can't.
So now
it's
we've
too
got our
easy.
highlights.
It's
which
too
is
good.
All of my skin
Alpha channels
on
are
account
a
of my albino
great
problem.
way to work. They don't hog.
Let's
they
go
don't
back
have
to our
file
stamp
larger
visible.
because again, you are just saving
Select
that,
color range.
That dotted marching lines.
Shadows.
Right.
Hit OK.
So
I'm going to leave that there and go to File,
Layer,
New Layer,
save
as, via
And
cut.
then instead of
I'm sorry,
saving
via
it in a
copy,
temporary file
and then
where
we'll
I'd
call
never
this
find it,
Shadows.
I'm going to save it to the desktop
and add
where I will most certainly find it.
a layer mask.
Come back for Monday
Okay.
or season
So it's looking
2,
pretty
where
good.
We'll be talking about the pen tool.
We've got
and how to use type on
highlights.
the pen tool.
The shadows, and the midtones.
Now, if we wanted to, I'll be right out. For those of you guys that couldn't see that during the video, it is almost time to take a break, during which time I will walk across the hall and hug my work husband. Okay, we're almost there. He'll have to hold on to a second for his hug, okay? Now, you can see that once you've done this and you've separated the picture, that's starting to add text to define the shadows and highlights is going to be a lot easier because you've already got the shadows, the midtones, and highlights isolated on each layer. The first thing we're going to do is add type to the shadows. I need this to be inverted, so I can double click it to bring up the properties and invert. All right. And you won't see anything and you might be like, oh, that looks great. We're not done yet. With a brush that we have made beforehand, in this case I am going to use the Walter brush that I made because it's super epic. And we can review how to make brushes. I'm going to just start to define some of the areas. You can see why you might want to use different brushes, smaller brushes, and say many more important things. Because if you do, you could actually tell a story along the photograph using the lines. One of the things I did was download a poem about a wiener dog from like the late 30s. Pretty fabulous. That's one of the things that I'm experimenting with too. You're going to do that same thing with the midtones and the highlight layer. I would suggest making different brushes for each. I would suggest downloading very specific fonts, and that's what we will do in the next video, and using the words and the photograph to work together to tell the narrative. So that will be the piece of storytelling. This is the first step on doing all of those different approaches for the type portraits. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to see if this worked and go hug Steve.